Chris Johnston from the NHL and Sportsnet senior writer here. Talk a little trade deadline with Elliot Friedman and Doug McLean. Elliot, start with you and Detroit.
You know, I think the Red Wings have kind of told teams they're open for business, but they're not necessarily looking to do anything stupid. You know, Andreas Athanasiou was a guy who was scratched earlier on this year. I think a couple teams called Detroit about him, and Detroit's response was, look, if you're talking a 22-year-old first-pair defenseman, we can talk. If not, we're not doing things like that. I think it goes for their other young forwards. I think it goes for Peter Mrazek. I think they're willing to do Vanek. I think they're willing to do Brendan Smith if they don't sign him this week. The one I'm curious about is Mike Green. I think Detroit's told some teams we may keep him because we need offense from our blue line, and Green can do it.
Not many teams out of it, so I keep waiting for Colorado to jump in here.
Unfortunately, you might be waiting a little bit longer, Darren. It sounds like Matt Duchene will be on the move at some point. But the winds have changed a little bit, and that might not be before 3 p.m. Eastern time next Wednesday. And the feeling is that Joe Sakic right now has the luxury of some time. He doesn't have to make this move. And obviously there's been all kinds of conversations on this front with teams, and the price just seems too high. And it does sound right now like Colorado is inclined to wait if no one steps up.
I think one of the biggest problems with Duchene and Landeskog is it's going to be hard for a team that wants to win the Stanley Cup to give what Colorado was asking and still win. I think that's one of the concerns.
Tampa beat Edmonton last night, so where are we with Brian Boyle and Ben Bishop?
Yeah, look, 4 points out. The triplets finally get together, and they had an outstanding game. So all of a sudden, what does Steve Yzerman do? I mean, they're back in the race, to be quite honest. Yet Brian Boyle is one of the most talked about guys in the league. He's been a great playoff performer. Penciled in as a fourth liner. I think he's a third line guy that can give you 12, 13 minutes. Edmonton's interested. Toronto's interested. Columbus are interested. This is a guy that could be on the move. But when does Stevie decide on Bishop and him? I think this is going to be a real tough call, and it will not surprise me if they're right back in this race before too long.
He's got a great cap hit, too, which makes him even more movable at this deadline.
Yeah. We're going to see Anaheim. Philadelphia also plays tonight. Where are they with defensemen, Chris or Elliot?
I think with Anaheim, Bob Murray doesn't have to do it. If he wants to wait and do his moves after the season, towards the expansion draft, he can. He can afford to be patient.
The biggest name out there is still Kevin Shattenkirk. He hasn't been talked about quite as much lately, but I was told as recently as last night, St. Louis still plans to move him. They want to try to get something, even though they got some wins under Mike Yeo, and we'll just have to see where that one shakes out.
Chris Johnston, senior writer on Sportsnet.ca.